Direct from Montreal, Canada, this is Rock Talk with Mitch LaFon. Rock Talk with Mitch LaFon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch LaFon. Joining me on the phone to talk about the 25th anniversary of Pride and Glory. It is the one, the only Zakk Wylde. And before we get to Zakk, we have Michael Staertow, formerly of Lou Gramm's band. Bonjour,
hey,
Michael.
Mitch.
Comment allez-vous?
Bonjour, Mitch.
Yes, and I get every so often on the Rock Talk Facebook page that you are a top fan. So
I am a Talk fan. I'm a big Talk fan.
The top fan of the #1 rated music interview show in Greece. So there you go.
Absolutely. I have my top fan medallion, diamond, token. So I'm recognized for that, and I'm very proud. Very proud to be in the Mitch LaFon Army.
The Mitch Army. Yeah, there you go. But let us quickly talk about Zakk. Now, Zakk has a whole bunch of stuff going out. Black Label Society is going on tour, and then who knows what's going to go on with Ozzy later this year. I do ask him, so stick around for his answer. But Pride and Glory, this album that came out in 1994, celebrating 25 years. There is a new deluxe edition out that adds The Wizard, Torn and Tattered, In My Time of Dying, The Hammer and the Nail Come Together, and so much more. Where do you sit in terms of being a Zakk fan? You're a guitarist, as everyone knows. Is he something that you look up to? Is he something that you run away from? How do you sort of situate yourself in the world of Zakk Wylde fandom?
I'm a huge fan of Zakk Wylde. Zakk Wylde's playing, his entertaining, his presence. I mean, he's a very dominant guitar player, a dominant force in the guitar world, and he has been since his inception. Joining Ozzy's band. Incredible player, technically, super talented. Very, very diverse with his talent. Not only a great guitar player, pianist. Is that what they're called? A vocalist, songwriter. I mean, the guy is equally adept in all facets. Big fan. I'm a big fan of everything he's done.
Yes. So all right. So talk to me a little bit about this, because you are familiar with the Pride and Glory album, and it is more, absolutely. I guess it's more Leonard Skinnerish than it is Black Sabbath. When he left Ozzy, or when Ozzy did the No More Tours tour, and then there was no more Ozzy for a couple of years, and Zakk and everybody in the band had to go reinvent themselves. And this album comes out that is sort of country rock, southern country, or southern rock, I guess is the proper term. Did you look at that and scratch your head and go, what the or did you go, oh, hey, this is interesting. This is different. I like this. It's unexpected.
Yeah, I said all of that. I mean, when I picked up the record, I didn't know what to expect, especially coming off of, his work with Ozzy. And the more I listened to it, the more I loved it. It reminded me of, old school 70s players where, there was it was freeform. They were jamming. They were developing, it wasn't like cookie cutter, quantized, to the grid. It was a lot of guitar playing, a lot of branching out. I mean, not only with Zakk, but James Lomenzo, who was in the band, and Brian Tichy, who, I mean, I couldn't think of a better trio to put together. Tichy being a monster, and his showcasing, each of those guys on that record with him and all complimenting each other. I mean, I just thought it was great. I mean, I listen to it all the time still today. And I just thought it was a great left-hand turn to take Zakk in a direction where people maybe weren't expecting it, but also solidifying his future going forward, to be a bona fide guitar hero who pretty much, really changed the course of where guitar was going at that time. If you remember when Zakk was introduced, there was a lot of guitar players playing pointy guitars and whammy bar guitars, a lot of pyrotechnics, two-handed stuff. And in addition to Zakk, there was another guitar player, Slash, who came out. Those guys were playing Les Pauls through Marshalls. It was very minimal effects, and they kind of reinvented the guitar where it was going that way. So I think the Pride and Glory record just really cemented that future. And I mean, obviously, Zakk's still around. He's still strong. He's still a powerhouse. He's still in demand, and he's an amazing player, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that it showed a great diversity, because had he come out maybe just with a heavy metal album or something like that, people around that were looking at Zakk and looking at what he could do would be like, oh, he's a one-trick pony. He can only do the metal stuff. And then this comes out and you go, oh, okay, he's got textures, he's got color, he can handle other stuff. But I'll admit that at the time when it came out, it was a very sort of confusing time with the grunge stuff and all the stuff that I grew up on loving, sort of, right?
Absolutely.
All the Bon Jovis and Def Leppards and Poisons were sort of in this great moment of flux. So I didn't sort of gravitate to Pride and Glory, but then Book of Shadows comes out a couple of years later.
Another incredible record.
That's where I became a real Zakk Wylde fan, not a Zakk and Ozzy fan. We were of course Zakk and Ozzy fans, but this is where I went, ooh, I like this guy alone. And then because of this sort of softer, more soulful, heartfelt album, I went, okay, let me go backwards and let me try this Pride and Glory again. And then I went, I get it. And it took me a while to get it, but I got it. And it holds up. I mean, it's 25 years later. And, you hear a song like, what is it? Hate My Guts or Hate Your Guts. Whatever it's
Yeah.
I hate, that song still resonates. It's still, I'm trying to think what are some of the other ones here. Losing Your Mind.
Losing Your Mind's great.
Machine Gun Man, Toe the Line. His version of The Wizard.
Harvester of Pain, Sweet Jesus, The Chosen One. I mean, they're all
Sweet
great.
Jesus
Troubled Wine
is
a great
so
song,
yeah. And it's funny because they didn't connect in 94. It really took 96, 97 with Book of Shadows going, ooh, I need more than what's on this album. And so I had to go backwards to get more. And that's when I went, I get
well,
it.
like anything else, it stood the test of time and thus the 25th anniversary release. But the thing I love the most about Zakk is that he's he has a lot of reverence for the people that came before him, his heroes, and it's noticeable. I mean, he refers to everybody as, Father Iomi, Pontiff, whatever. He goes and he holds everybody in high regard, not only in his playing when he cites them in his playing, but in his respect for them. And to be honest with you, as far as when it comes to Randy Rhoads, I thought, no disrespect to J.E. Lee, who was put in a really tough situation, being the immediate person that replaced Randy. But I thought Zakk did probably the most accurate and the most revered job of playing Randy's material. I thought he did it very authentically, very respectfully, and I mean, right on. I thought he was the best person to replicate that body of work, the two Randy Rhoads records. So
yeah,
it's,
I
kudos
agree.
to him. I mean,
high praise indeed. So let us get over to Zakk. Let us hear from him. And here we go. Here is the one, the only guitarist extraordinaire, le seul et unique Zakk Wylde. We are speaking with a guitarist extraordinaire, the one, the only Zakk Wylde. Bonjour, Monsieur Zakk. Comment allez-vous? How are you?
What are you doing, man? Father Mitch in the house.
In the house, talking rock and roll and all kinds of great stuff. So, you've got the tour coming up with Obituary and Lord Dying, which was postponed but now happening. You've got this Pride and Glory re-release that came out recently. Where would you like to start? Should we start with Pride and Glory?
It doesn't matter where we start because it's all one gigantic Festivus miracle.
It
Go.
is.
Whatever you want to do. You want to talk about Black Label lingerie for men, Pride and Glory, Obituary,
yeah,
Lord Dying. I mean, we got, there's so many Festivus miracles going on here. I'm bursting with country freshness. Let's go.
Yeah, or we could just start off with my Washington Redskins and your New York Giants and talk about the grimmest hits right there, right? I mean, holy.
Well, or you want to speak about, I don't know what types of depths of depression you want to enter, but it is what it is.
Oh my God, it's incredibly awful. But all right, let's go with Pride and Glory. Recently re-released it.
I'd much rather talk about my beloved Yankees, because hopefully we get there next year and seal the deal. But carry on. What are we talking about? Pride and Glory here?
Since we're talking about the Yankees, we will talk Pride and Glory because they are the Pride and Glory of New York. More championships than the Rangers, Giants, Mets, Jets,
Actually,
combined.
than anybody.
Right.
No, anybody.
But I'm talking combined.
Definitely more than the Mets. That's JD's team.
Oh,
But,
God. What a horrible
But yeah,
team.
but go ahead.
But
So,
all
yes,
right.
the Pride and Glory Festivus Miracle, yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that and revisiting that, because this was an album that came out after the No More Tours tour, and you had sort of been set adrift because it was like, what do I do now? And you had Lynyrd Skynyrd. You remember that good old band, the Lynyrd Skynyrds?
Yeah, without a doubt. You know what I mean? It was a great excuse to get together, drink some beers, and play music from bands that we love.
And now you're sort of doing the same with the Zakk Sabbath thing. But okay, so talk to me about this, because it was one of these moments where you were sort of like, okay, now what do I do now? And you went into sort of not country rock, but more of a southern rock kind of vein. Going back, did you always see it as a one-off, and we're just going to do this one album, we'll get Tishy in and do this? What's the story behind?
Obviously, I love when we, me, James, and Brian, when we went up there and made the record, we had a blast doing the record. It was super exciting. It was almost kind of no different than moving out of your parents' house, which, it was me having the shelter of having Oz and, Mom over there, just, because Ozzy's already the New York Yankees. It's already an established franchise. So, it's like being at your parents' house. So, when you leave and you have your own apartment, now you're the one that's got to pay the light bills, and you're the one that's got to pay the rent and everything like that. So, no, it was super exciting, man, for sure.
Well, it was a great album, and I love it, and of course it's endured the test of time. Do you look back at that time and think maybe you should have done a Zakk Wylde, guitar hero, in your face guitar metal kind of thing, and sort of give those Ozzy fans what they had wanted? Or was stepping out and showing people another flavor of yourself what you really thought?
Probably would have been easier if I would have done Black Label then, as opposed to, P&G. But no, I don't have any regrets with any of it. The whole thing is, that's where I was at that point in my life. And, I look back on it with nothing but great memories, man. And, like I said, it was exciting, like being out of your parents' house. So, and not having the shelter of Ozzy, so, it was scary, but like at the same time, it's just, because here we are with Oz, I'm playing arenas and headlining festivals with the Boss, in front of 100,000 people doing, gigs like that. And then when I'm with Pride and Glory, we'd be playing bar and grills, and with people shooting pool, and with about maybe 30 people in the place. So it's like starting all over again. It for sure starting all over again, where people don't even know who Zakk Wylde is, where it's just like, oh, he played with Ozzy. It's like, oh, I didn't even know. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's the reality of that. So, but I to me, I never looked at it like, I can't believe, I'm playing bar and grills again. It was just like, no, this is like awesome.
Yeah,
we're sitting there in a van or whatever, when we're going throughout Europe, it was in a van in a U-Haul. So, no, just, I had a blast doing it, for sure.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that there was any regrets to it. The band, of course, has this re-edition or re-release. Do you think you'd ever do a second Pride and Glory? Do you want to get those two guys back in a room and do something like that? Or if not, get two other guys and do another album in that kind of vein?
Yeah, you never say never. And like you said, there was I'm still friends with James and Brian. So the whole thing is, there was never any massive fallout or anything, or just like it was just so bitter, and no, there was none of that. So it was just, it kind of like it just ran its course, and then for me, it was my first experience of like having your own record deal, and then people at labels leaving, and then then you're handed off to somebody else who's like kind of like, I'm not really even into this stuff, or whatever. So dealing with that, But then again, I look on it now, it's all a learning experience, because if I would have known what I know now, I would have been like, oh, I don't care. I mean, this is what we need to do, and this is what needs to get done, and make it happen. You know, you never point fingers at people and blame other people for things not happening. You know, no, if it doesn't happen, you should be on top of it. You know what I mean? You should be accountable for everything you do. You know what I mean? Whether it succeeds or it fails or whatever, you know what I mean? So instead of pointing fingers, it was a label. Oh, no, it's not the label. It's you. You should be on top of that. You know, so don't blame anybody else. You want the garbage to go out? You want the dishes to be done? Do it yourself. Well, that was Tommy's job. He should have done it. I don't care, but Tommy's not here. You don't like looking at it? Do it. Clean it.
I'm with you. I mean, that's how my dad raised me.
That's the way I view things. So, but, it was definitely, I look back on it now, definitely, for anybody in life. I mean, for all of us, you get things, people come into your life, situations come into your life, and they're learning experiences. Either you learn from it or you can moan about it. Or you just go, yeah, okay, well, we'll do this to fix it. You know what I mean? So next time something like that comes around, we know to do this, So, yeah, I mean, to me, that's why I said I don't have anything about any of it. Just because the whole thing is, if it wasn't for any of those situations, none of us would be where we're going. You know what I mean? It's just like with The Rock, wanted to be the wrestler, he wanted to be a football player, University of Miami, didn't make it in the NFL, completely bummed, then another door opened, and then here he is, one of the biggest wrestlers of all time, and then a massive movie star. Like, that would have never probably happened if he had joined the NFL. You know what I mean? So you got to look at the big picture of everything. So, but no, that's why I look back at the Pride and Glory stuff and with nothing but
with Pride and Glory,
great memories and a lot of comedy and us laughing all the time and just having a blast with it. So I mean, but yeah, like you said, I mean, to ever do another one, there's always a possibility of that because, like I said, I'm still buddies with J-Mo and Brian and like you said, if the guys didn't want to do it, JD or Jeff or any of my other buddies. I mean, with Zakk Sabbath playing with Joey and Blasco, and I'm just always jamming with my buddies. So yeah, there's always a possibility it could always go down.
Yeah, and I think we've come full circle where there's a desire to hear that, and of course, the good thing about Pride and Glory coming and going the way it did, that it gave rise to Book of Shadows, which, and I've told you this many times, is by far my favorite album that you've put out because it's just so incredibly heartfelt, so incredibly beautiful. Well,
thank you very much. That, to me, it's another Festivus miracle as well. So I mean, but yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, if we were still doing the P&G thing, it wouldn't never led me to the Book of Shadows thing. You know what I mean? So, and like you said, after we did the Book of Shadows thing, then when I was sitting in limbo there going, well, what am I going to do now? Because I was just like, I'm not ready to be James Taylor and be a singer-songwriter and just play acoustic stuff. You know what I mean? So it was just, and that's why basically Black Label was born out of that.
Yes, yeah. So, all right, so let's talk about Black Label. You put out Grimmest Hits, and you, of course, famously told Billboard magazine that it was done to confuse fans because it wasn't a greatest hits album, but a Grimmest Hits album.
Yeah, because if I would have wrote greatest hits, this was false advertisement. They don't have any. First off, they don't have any hits, and they're definitely not great either. So this is obviously false advertisement. So that's the reason why we have Grimmest Hits.
Right. So actually, let me ask you two questions on that. First of all, for a band like Black Label Society, how important is it to have a hit? How important is it for radio to have you in the top 20 or in the top 40? Because it seems to me as though the band and the machine rolls along despite radio, despite Billboard, despite. Are you in search of a song?
With anybody, I mean, yeah, it's always great if you can have a successful song or whatever like that. But I mean, but if you don't, I mean, it's weird. I think, you just got to play the music you love playing, and like, you know what I mean. And if something, people gravitate towards it and like it, then great. But as long as you're playing what you love, I mean, that's true freedom right there.
Well, and I think the one thing that we can say about your career and your music is that it's always been heartfelt and always been honest. You've never been a contrived artist where A plus B is going to give me this kind of song and it's going to make radio. All you're not one of those. Oh, let me outguess the market. Well,
Yeah, I mean, but then again, I think when you really think about all the bands that we love and all these successful bands or whatever, I mean, the whole thing is none of it contrived in a way, or, people going, oh, they sold out. Or I go, it's never selling out unless you're doing something that's against your will. You know what I mean? Like, if you really enjoy a certain thing and you want to add that to your music or whatever, you're like, dude, I love this stuff. Then you should do it. You know what I mean? I mean, I've been in a position, like with Oz and everything like that, from Ozzy on, where I've never been told you got to do this or you got to wear this or you got to do ever. I mean, I've been like, we do whatever we want to do, and that's about it. You know what I mean? So I think, with all the bands that we love, whether it's Zeppelin, the Stones, Sabbath, the Allman Brothers, Skinner, Bad Company, I mean, name it. The whole thing is they just kind of like do whatever they want to do, and then it runs its course, and then, or whatever, you know what I mean? And then they're like, hey, well, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing this now. So, I mean, it's just, yeah. I think it's just as long as you're playing whatever you want to play, that's that.
That's that. So I'll ask you this. You do have these dates coming up with Black Label in, end of February, early March. Before that, you're with Zakk Sabbath. What is sort of the plan going into 2020? Is it to just tour with Black Label Society and then eventually we start thinking about a new album, or is an album already in progress and it'll come out at some point?
Oh no, I mean, like the last record, I mean, it's just like, well, how much, it's like, Mitch, you manage me, you're my business partner. It's just like, well, Mitch, how much time do we have for the next record? You're like, well, Zakk, when you get off the road with Zakk Sabbath or Generation X or Experience Hendrix or whatever we're doing at the time, you're like, you got about a month before the guys come out to the Vatican, to the Black Vatican. I'm like, all right, well, I got a month to write a record. All right, cool. So every day you just start writing, you know what I mean? And with Black, just write some riffs or whatever, you get inspired or whatever, you hear Wild Horses, you're like, oh, it'd be great if we have something like that. So, you get inspired writing that, and then you write a ballad or whatever, so, I mean, I'm just saying that's usually how I go about writing. You know what I mean? You get inspired and then you just start doing stuff. It starts with riffs or whatever, you know what I mean? But I mean, that's how it usually always gets built for me anyways. It's always the riff or the music, and then you'll start singing a melody over it, and then lyrics are always last. But yeah, I mean, I have nothing, I have a batch of tunes laying around, but I mean, like, usually what always happens once the fellas get out here and the energy of creating and everything, it's a whirlwind of creation. The next thing you know, you write another 15 songs when the guys get out here. So, I mean, you could be jamming on the acoustic or whatever, like something like Knocking on Heaven's Door or whatever, like I say, if it was never written, and you're just singing a melody over like those 3 chords, and I'm like, wow, what was that? Like, oh, I was just noodling on it this morning. I was like, oh, you should record that. All right, well, let's record it. You know what I mean? So there you go. And you end up writing a song called Knocking on Heaven's Door. So, I mean, it's just, that's usually how it goes about, doing records. But, yeah, so, I mean, nothing right now. And then also we're talking about, the Boss getting better and going back out and touring with Oz. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, there's always something in the works, which I love.
Which you love. In fact, I was going to ask you that. Ozzy is heading out on tour. He'll be in Montreal, I believe, in June. I don't have the dates in front of me, but will you be part of the band? Because he used some other people on the album, which is fine. But you're still the touring band. I
think it came out great. I think the album's awesome.
The 2 singles that I heard are fantastic, so no complaints. Totally. But does that mean you're...
Well, the plans are to go out with the Boss, and then and if that changes, then I'll be either out with, doing Zakk Sabbath or whatever, or the Pride and Glory reunion or whatever, who knows, you know what I mean? Or like you said, the Black Label Lingerie for Men line, we'll be putting that out.
Well, you could consider a Kiss tribute. Put some makeup on and play "I Was Made for Loving You." That would suit you well.
We could do that as well.
I've thought that. I always thought
we could just call the band. We could call the band French Kiss, and dress up as French guys, as French pastry chefs, with the Kiss makeup on.
So let me get this. You would have a baguette, a little mustache.
And the songs, and it's French Kiss, and the songs are all sung in French. There you go.
That is a concept. What would be "I was made for loving you"? Je suis pour amour toi.
There you go. And it's called French Kiss. So when people see it, they go, "Wow, it actually is French Kiss. It's singing everything in French."
Hey, listen. This is how ideas are born, right? Oh my God, that would be that just for the comedy value would be epic.
But this is another thing about the band. We only tour France. That's it.
Or Quebec.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be a place, or
French territories.
Quebec, certain parts of New Orleans.
Yeah, you're down in Chicoutimi doing it. But let me quickly ask you here. You're marking the impressive 50 years of the Black Sabbath with these Zakk Sabbath tour dates. Talk to me about putting together this Zakk Sabbath and bringing this music to the people and just delivering it with sort of the Zakk Wylde flair and the band's sort of take on it. Is it just sort of a hobby kind of thing, the love of the music, or do you see yourself at some point, recording some stuff and DVDing some stuff and turning it into more of a business rather than here's a group of guys hanging out playing music that inspires us?
No, we're re-recording the first Sabbath record. So we're going to record that record, me, Joey, and Blasco. And, and I mean, that's already in the works. So we're going to go in after the tour and then knock this record out.
Okay. Yeah. See, I remember having heard that, but I couldn't remember if it was one of these wild internet rumors or one of these factual things. So it's factual. So you're going to be re-recording that. Do you then stay true to the original recordings and just make a carbon copy? Or do you say, hey, no, we're going to add our little things to it, my little pings?
Well, it's just kind of like the way we do it. I mean, the whole thing is when, it's going to sound like us playing a record. It's not going to be, we're going to do it as close as we can. But I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody's going to have any distinction going, wow. Is that they'll listen to it and go, well, obviously, it goes, what do you think? Can you tell the difference? People go, oh, yeah, the Zakk Sabbath version compared to the real Black Sabbath version. They'll go, yeah, what's the big difference? It's not as good. So, you shoot low. So, I mean, the whole thing is people already know that going in. So that's why we're not afraid at all going in and recording this record.
Right, and but by that I mean in terms of it's not going to be like the country version or the hip hop version. You're not reimagining the songs and making them your own. You're going to just play them faithfully, and it'll be that.
Yeah, it'll be faithfully not as good, but it'll be that.
The Grim Sabbath. I do know that you have to get going in a couple of minutes, but is that the first of many Sabbath records that you want to try to do and sort of have that as a side project? Or is it, we're just going to do this one for fun and, enjoy it, folks, and I got other stuff to do?
No, I mean, the whole thing is, look at where it's at now. I mean, the thing originally started off as just me and Blasco doing Sabbath songs because we were in these Metal All-Stars gigs, and the common ground amongst everybody, if you're in metal or you're in a hard rock band or whatever, part of your education is either Sabbath, Zeppelin, or Deep Purple. I mean, somewhere in there, you've learned one of these songs. So, I mean, it's like if you're a classical musician, Bach, Beethoven, or Mozart, does anyone know this one or that one or the other? It's just like, I know that one. So it was like Sabbath would always end up being the common denominator, whether we were like, oh, let's do War Pigs, NIB, and then we'll do, just throw it's like Into the Void or whatever. So we'll throw those in there, and then people will go, yeah, no problem, I know. Or, I'll listen to War, Into the Void again, and then we'll do it. So we'd get there with no rehearsals, and then we'd just end up doing them. Everyone would do their homework and know them, or they just knew them already. So that's so Blasko came up with the thing, that was the common ground all the time. So Blasko would always go, I go, what tunes do you want to do? He goes, well, I think the drummer knows, Sabbath, so we'll just do the Zakk Sabbath set. That was the running joke. So it started off as that, and now we're here doing tours. So,
well, hey, it's a beautiful thing.
So, I mean, wherever the thing leads is where it goes.
It's a beautiful thing.
Run its course.
And I will end on this because we got to move along here, but just real quick on football, Eli Manning, it looks like his time is done with the Giants. How do you sort of look back on his career? One of the greatest, average Joe, happy to have had him. How do you sort of look back on that?
I mean, talk about Captain Clutch. He beat Captain America twice. So there's that. I mean, think about it. He had to come. He had to deliver in those specific moments. So that's all you got to say.
Yeah, listen, as a Redskins fan, I hate him because he beat us many times, and he's one of those. Anyway, as we say in Montreal, merci, monsieur. Thank you, sir.
All right, my brother. Probably next time I see you between the Zakk Sabbath, Black Label, Generation X, Experience Hendrix with the Boss. Maybe it'll be French Kiss.
There just might be, because the chances are we'll see each other in Montreal, so it'll be very français.
Awesome.
There you go. Cheers,
right,
monsieur.
Well, anyway, it's always great talking to you, brother.
You too. Have a good day. Cheers. Merci.
Talk to you a bit, Father. Bye, buddy.
Cheers. All right, perfect. Thank you.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch LaFon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch LaFon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_LaFon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.